Welcome to the Haley Rowe Show. I'm a feel-good habits coach dedicated to helping you reach new levels of health, happiness, and high performance. Please visit www.haleyrowe.com for show notes. Let's get to it. All right, we are rolling. I am here with Catharine Arnston, who I found out about from the Ben Greenfield podcast, and I heard her talking about algae, which for many people is probably a very not sexy topic or something they don't know a lot about. But as I was listening to the podcast and as I've started to learn more about algae, it's actually very sexy, and there is a lot of things that it can change in your life. And so I tried the product and got talking to Catharine a little bit more. We met at the Bulletproof Conference this year in Los Angeles, in Pasadena. And now here we are with the founder of ENERGYbits, which is the algae products. And Catharine, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I live in Boston. I've been here about 25 years, but I'm actually Canadian, and my undergraduate degree was in geography, which actually starts to make a lot of sense because I studied soils and I studied climatology, and it's all coming full circle. I also did an MBA, so I was in Canada, so I was doing international work through my MBA. And then, my sister got sick. She got breast cancer, and her oncologist told her to eat an alkaline diet, and I helped her research what foods that would be, which are basically plant-based foods because of the phytonutrients and the chlorophyll that's in them. And in order to help her, after helping her, I thought, man, I need to know more about this plant-based nutrition stuff. So I gave up my corporate career of 25 years, went back to school to get a 1-year certificate in health coaching from a school in New York called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. A lot of people know it as IIN. Oh, yeah. And then I taught nutrition for a year, trying to get people to eat more greens, but found out they didn't like them or it was too much work. And I thought, well, how am I going to save the world that way if I can't get people to eat them? So that's when I started looking into other products that would have the green nutrition that was so necessary, but was really easy, really fast, and maybe didn't even taste green. And along the way, I just, in my research, I found algae, which can be consumed in small, tiny tablets. And if you swallow the tablets, there's no green. And whether you swallow or chew them, you get all the green nutrition of greens. In fact, it has 1,000 times more chlorophyll than even kale. So it's a rock star nutritionally. 40 vitamins and minerals is endorsed by the United Nations, Carnegie Institute, the NASA. So I've been on my what I call greens revolution for the last 6 years, and I'm starting to get some traction. I did this because I really wanted people to be healthy, and the Centers for Disease Control say that 98% of all chronic illnesses, so that's cancer, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, all of those, 98% of them are nutrition and lifestyle related. So it means they're preventable. So I thought, if I can just get proper nutrition into people, mostly the greens that are missing, then maybe we can get these numbers down. So I've spent 7 years researching all the science of algae. It's the most documented food in the world, but that's probably the problem. There's actually too much science about it, and until no one's pulled out the little nuggets or connected the dots so that the rest of the world, health conscious consumers or athletes or practitioners could understand it from a simple perspective. And that's getting me some traction in the marketplace now. I was selected last year to be on Shark Tank, which was kind of cool. They didn't invest, but that was fine. They aired me twice. I've been featured on Fox News, CBS News. I'm on podcasts pretty much every week now. So I have the sort of educational background from years ago. Who knew I'd end up in nutrition with the soil science? I'm actually also a Reiki healer, and I've been a master for 7 years because everything's all about energy. And I have a little bit of the nutrition background. So I'm just on this big mission to try to help people to make it easy to be healthy, because it shouldn't be so difficult. So that's my story.
Definitely. I love that. And that's a fun fact about the Reiki master. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And that's one thing that I know about you and that I've learned about your products is the integrity behind them and how they're grown, and all of that is so important And a lot of people probably don't realize that, because a lot of people said to me at the conference, oh, yeah, I've tried chlorella or spirulina. I bought it at Whole Foods, and I've had it in tablets, or I've had it in the liquid form, but they don't know where it was grown, and they don't know if there's additives in it. Tell us a little bit about the purity behind ENERGYbits, and what kind of criteria should we have as consumers if we're going to buy a spirulina or chlorella algae based product.
Sure. Well, I might just dial it back a little bit just so people understand what the different algae are,
Yeah.
because the way they're prepared are quite different and grown. So there's basically 15,000 strains of algae, but there's only about 2 or 3 that won't kill you. So obviously, those are the ones we sell. The 2 main ones are spirulina, which is a blue-green algae, and the second one we sell is chlorella, which is a green algae. Now, spirulina was the first plant life on Earth 3.5 billion years ago, and there are fossils to prove it. And what it does, it has the highest concentration of protein in the world, 3 times the amount of steak, so 64% protein, and it's loaded with essential fatty acids. So it's got omega-3, DHA, GLA, and 40 vitamins and minerals. So basically, it gives you energy and focus. And it's the keto paleo community love it because it doesn't affect doesn't drop your ketones. So it's really great, or it's great for intermittent fasting because you can stay in a fasted state and it doesn't change your ketones or your glucose. And the way spirulina is grown, well, all of our algae is grown in freshwater tanks, which is really important. They're not grown in the ocean, so you don't have to worry about any ocean contaminants. Because you want to be algae absorbs whatever's in the water, so you want it to be grown very carefully. And there's also no iodine. A lot of people think there's iodine in algae, but there is not because it's fresh water. So I selected a company to grow ours in Taiwan. All of our algae is grown in Taiwan. Taiwan is the gold standard for quality control and quality of algae in the world. Algae is grown in Japan, China, Taiwan, and India primarily. And we selected Taiwan because of the high standards. The company that grows it has been doing it for 50 years. Their GMP certification, ISO 9000 certification. And I also get all of our algae tested here by an FDA approved lab. And I send all those 15 pages of lab results to all of our practitioners who recommend our product so they can see there are no toxins, there are no contaminants, and it has the nutrient profile that we say it is. So I think we're the only company that does that because it's very expensive. And a lot of the cheaper algae that you'll find in the market comes from China. And the concerns there are that they may not be growing it organically as we do. They use, in most cases, they're volume producers, so they use flash heat because they need to get it out to the market fast, and that kills the enzyme, so it's no longer a raw food. It alters the nutrient profile, and also they use other stuff in there. We've got pictures of ground up rocks or seashells as filler, and you don't really know what's in there. So I decided when I started, I wasn't even starting the company. I just wanted to help my sister. And then I just kept going. And well, if I'm going to do this, it has to be 100% perfect. If I'm putting stuff in people's bodies. So I think we're the only company. All we sell is algae. We don't have 1,000 other products like a lot of other supplements companies who can't possibly spend the amount of attention and detail that we do. And I stand by the purity 100% of the way. So that's spirulina. They grow in long tanks, and it's called spirulina because it grows long like that. And then it's all dried, air dried. They shoot it up into the air, and then they just press the water out into the little tablet. So there's no binders, there's no contaminants, absolutely nothing. And when you take a handful of it, it gives you, as I say, it satisfies your hunger, gives you energy. And we've had people do little comparisons of stuff they bought from Walmart and our algae, and they just say, hands down, there's no comparison. We didn't ask them to do that. They just were curious on their own. So that's spirulina, a blue-green algae. Now, it's interesting because from the eye, if you can look at a tablet of spirulina and compare it to a tablet of chlorella, it visually looks very similar, but I would encourage anybody who has any of our algae or when they buy some, to take one of those tablets and put them in a dish of water. And I wish maybe I can go run and get one, because you'll see a blue pigment pull out of the spirulina algae, which is a gorgeous blue from a GNC, and that pigment is called phycocyanin, and that has healing properties that stop. For example, they found that it stops the growth of blood vessels to cancers and tumors. So I tell people, hey, where else can you heal from your meal,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
it's it's pretty amazing. So we'll switch over to chlorella, which is a green algae. It developed about almost a billion years after spirulina. Spirulina is technically a bacteria, has no cellulose wall, so that's why it gets absorbed so quickly. If you chew it, it's in your bloodstream within seconds, and
Wow.
within minutes if you swallow it. So it's for athletes, it's fantastic. And or you're getting low blood sugar, don't have a piece of fruit. Have a few pieces of spirulina. So chlorella, as a contrast, has the hardest cellular wall, so hard that it needs to be cracked at production, and even then it takes an hour and a half to get into your bloodstream. Now, what chlorella does is it pulls out toxins, as you mentioned. It also builds your immune system, and it helps you heal from anything, colds, injury, surgery, or also it pulls out lactic acid. So the athletes love it because their muscles won't be sore the next day. And the reason that they're able to help you heal is it has the highest concentration of RNA and DNA in the world. Up until they discovered this in chlorella, sardines were known to have the highest RNA and DNA in the world. And the reason why this is important is because particularly as you age, that your RNA and DNA become damaged, and it's more likely that you may end up, developing one of these more long-term chronic illnesses. Or if you are having surgery or injury, it helps your body heal much quicker. The chlorella is called chlorella because it's so loaded with chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is the green pigment. That's what makes plants green. Well, interestingly, I found from some data that shows that chlorella has 1,000 times more chlorophyll per ounce than any greens, including kale, and 50 times more than wheatgrass. Up until now, most people thought wheatgrass had the highest concentration of chlorophyll, but it's not. It's chlorella. And the reason why chlorophyll is so important to all of us is that it's one of the few fat-based pigments. All the other pigments are it's an antioxidant. Most of the antioxidants, like you read about the ORAC scale, those are mostly from fruits or vegetables that are water-based antioxidants. And water-based antioxidants heal your blood and your plasma, but it's the fat-based pigments that heal your cell wall. And everything everyone is learning is that all the aging, all illness, all issues start at the cellular level and the mitochondria. So chlorophyll is extraordinary in helping your mitochondria and your cell wall be healthy. And in fact, recent research has shown that when you merge chlorophyll with sunlight, your body generates ATP. That's the currency of energy in your body. And it's much cleaner energy than anything you get from carbs. So just like plants grow from sunlight, we do too, as long as you have enough chlorophyll in your system. It's unbelievable. It's like a little power source inside your body. It's very cool. So the technical issue about chlorella is, as I mentioned, it's so hard that it has to be cracked to production. Well, there was a technique developed 50 years ago that almost everybody uses, and it's a patented technique, and they tumble the chlorella with glass beads. But what was always suspicious that the heat from the glass allowed lead to leak into the chlorella. Now, the company that patented the technique always denied that no, that was not possible. But then the state of California tested their chlorella, and this is one of the products that are sold at Whole Foods. I will
Oh, okay.
mention who it is. And so the state of California said, look, you have too much lead in your chlorella. You can either stop selling it here or put a warning on your package that it contains a substance known to cause brain damage and birth defects. So that's what they did. Now,
Wow.
I tell my team, how much lead is too much lead? And, zero would be the answer. There is a minuscule amount of lead that occurs naturally in all plants. But when you tumble it with glass beads and have the lead leaking into it, now you're taking chlorella to remove toxins and you're putting toxins in. We don't use that technique because I found out about this being a possibility when I started the company. So I did my research and found another technique where you pass the chlorella through a sound chamber. And it's actually the vibrations that crack the chlorella. And when we were at the Bulletproof conference, and I told this to somebody, they said, "Ooh, I love that. Good vibrations in the chlorella." I'll have to say, I'll have to work that in somehow. So yeah, you get good vibrations from our chlorella,
I love it.
and no lead.
Yes, yes. No, that's a real thing. Like a lot of times the supplements you're taking, they're almost worse to take them than to not take
Yeah,
them because
I
of
know.
what's added to them, the syntheticness of it, the
Yeah.
binders added. And so that's one thing that really caught my eye about energy bits. So and you're a marketing genius too, where you catch these little
Well,
bits,
well,
these little sound bits.
I know.
I love it.
I have fun with it, and I'll do anything I can to help people understand that this isn't bad for them. In fact, it's probably yeah, I call it a super duper food, not just a superfood.
Yeah, no, it really is. And it's been labeled as the most nutrient dense food in the world, not
Yeah.
by you, but by,
No.
NASA and
Yeah.
United Nations. So I think, so I want to back up a little bit and just kind of summarize. So
Yeah.
as far as the difference between chlorella and spirulina, they both are from algae, but spirulina has the phycocyanins, which is good for your cellular health and we can't say cancer, but things. Can you say a little more about phycocyanins real quick?
Well, so spirulina, cellular health. The cellular health piece is actually the chlorella.
Chlorella. Okay.
That's just called, and we call it recovery bits because we named them so it would help people understand what they do. So chlorella helps you recover from anything,
Right.
sports, partying, because it pulls out alcohol as well, by the way, so you never have a hangover the next day. Like I said, lactic acid, any kind of metals, toxins, anything. So it helps you recover. So
Okay.
that's chlorella.
Gotcha.
Spirulina gives you energy mentally and physically. So that's why we call it energy bits. But it does has this one extra aspect to it with the blue pigment, which is called the phycocyanin. And I have peer-reviewed scientific NIH related studies that prove that it has this ability. It's called anti-angiogenesis. It has the ability to stop the growth of blood vessels to tumors and cancers. We didn't even know this, but we were contacted by a fantastic association. It's been around for 20 years called the Angiogenesis Foundation, based here in Cambridge. Angio.org, I think, is the name of the organization. They were holding a global conference, and they said, by the way, did you know that spirulina helps prevent cancer? Can you come to our conference? And we said, sure. And like, no, we didn't. So I do have the documents. I'm very careful about what we say because we do not want to ever make a claim that cannot be validated. So I have thousands and thousands and thousands of documents and links to people either in the media or anybody wants to learn more about it. But that is one of the attributes of spirulina. And just on an aside, I kept wondering, why is it that spirulina does this? Why is the phycocyanin doing this and not the chlorella? And then recently, about 2 months ago, that's when I had the epiphany that the phycocyanin is a water-based antioxidant slash pigment. And so your blood is water. And so that's why it's helping with that.
Okay.
So that made that. So it's a very distinct difference.
Gotcha.
So, but generally spirulina, which we call energy bits, gives you energy and focus and satisfies your hunger, great for intermittent fasting. And recovery bits are the chlorella, which help you recover your health or prevent illness.
Got it. Okay. Yes. I'm glad we clarified.
Yeah.
And then as far as the criteria goes for getting a algae-based supplement, you focus on where it's grown, which you guys grow in Taiwan, which has gold standards for how it's made. And you do the freshwater tanks so that it doesn't have the ocean contaminants, and you don't add anything to it. And the way that you make it into tablets is not the heat flash. What's it called?
Flash sheet. So
flash
we air
sheet.
dry it.
That's right. Okay.
So that prefers
which changes the way it's absorbed. It doesn't degrade any of the nutrients or good qualities about it, right?
Well, when you use slash heat, it will
It
deteriorate
will.
some of the nutrients, yes, and it will no longer be a raw food. So
Right.
all these things, by not using flash heat and by not adding anything extra and being very careful growing it organically, this is allows your body to recognize it as a healthy food. So it goes,
Mhm.
oh, woohoo! Yeah, we know what to do with all this because it has the enzymes and coenzymes and the factors and the cofactors and all that sort of jazz. As soon
Awesome.
as you start toying with it, you change the chemical composition of the nutrient and it makes it more difficult for your body to use it and recognize it.
Okay. Gotcha. And you said that the spirulina won't affect if you're fasting, it won't affect your ketone levels. It will keep you in that fasted state. Does chlorella do that as well, or are they a little different?
Yes. In fact, we're probably going to we're working with Dr. Dominique D'Agostino, who is well known in the keto community, and we're going to be working on a paper together because he's been studying this for 6 months, and he confirms that it does not. And we've done this multiple times. Either algae that you take, neither one of them changes your ketones. Does not change it, lower them, and it does not increase your glucose. So either one of them. And the reason for that is that there's zero carbs in them, zero carbs, and good fat and sufficient protein. So, but what we found is the energy bits is the one that actually satisfies your hunger.
Okay.
Um, there's, I'm still trying to, I do as much research. I love doing the research. I'm trying to still figure out why is it that the chlorella doesn't satisfy your hunger, even though it still has 60% protein. But it's this. It might be because the spirulina has all those fats, far more fats, and also it gets into your bloodstream faster. Remember, it gets in either in seconds or minutes, and the chlorella takes an hour and a half. So if you're looking to satisfy your hunger, you don't want to wait an hour and a half, right?
Right.
So,
Okay.
but yes, either one of them can be used, and neither of them affect your ketones in any way at all, or your blood sugar. It's flatlined.
Okay. And yeah, for people listening who don't even know what that's about, ketones and all of that, basically, we're just talking about if you are somebody who eats a lower carb, higher fat, moderate protein diet, and you run on fat storage versus glucose or carb storage. That's what we're talking about here. And with intermittent fasting, we're going to have a whole series of episodes on that. But basically, that means, again, shifting from carb burning mode to your fat burning mode. And it really makes a difference in your insulin sensitivity and your
Right.
hormones and things like that. So
Yeah,
it's a powerful longevity tool, but not for
it is.
everyone. And we'll talk
Yeah,
about who it's not
yeah.
for in one of the episodes. But
Excellent. Excellent.
so that's a great summary. And I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying about how athletes take chlorella, which is the recovery bits. How long, let's say I wanted to use recovery bits for, I'm an athlete, I'm doing I don't know, triathlon or something.
Sure,
How do they use it? What's the
sure.
protocol?
Well, and I have documents on this as well. So basically, all these marathon triathletes, they've been using gels and which are full of sugar and glucose, and they crash when they burn through them. That's one downside, and they also get stomach distress because it's hard for when you're exercising to digest all those carbs and sugars. So energy bits, which is the spirulina, is a complete replacement for those fuels, those carb and sugar based fuels. So if you were going to go for a run, or it doesn't matter if if you just want to go for a regular run, take a single serving, which is 30 tablets. And if you get energy from smaller amounts, that's great too. But we've done some measurement and found that 30 is the magic number that everybody feels the energy. So take it about 15 minutes before your run, and then if you're going on a long run, and we have ultra runners who run like 150, 200 miles, all they use to fuel is energy bits and water. So every time you're starting to feel that you're fading, could be every hour, could be every 2 hours, have another serving, or take half a serving with some water. It's best that you take water because and you don't need a lot because you also don't want to over irrigate while you're running. That can cause other problems. So every hour or two, have a serving, and then what we at the end of your race, we recommend you take one or possibly two, depending on how long your athletics were, a serving of recovery bits, because that will pull the lactic acid out and so your muscles aren't sore the next day. We fuel 5 NHL teams. We fuel Olympic athletes. We had so many Olympic athletes going to Sochi a couple of years ago that 4 of them won medals, and they all
Wow.
publicly credit us both for the energy bits and also, when you're traveling as a team, very often if one person gets a cold, the whole team gets a cold. So they love the recovery bits because they helped everybody stay healthy and not have colds. So it not only helps with the recovery from the sport, but when you do a long marathon or triathlon, that's hard on your immune system. So by taking the recovery bits, it helps your body recover at an immune level. It's so funny because there's a gentleman who's run, I think, like 400 marathons globally. He swears by our stuff. He
Wow.
says, I wish I knew about this 6 years ago. But he said it's funny because in the competitive world, a lot of people actually don't want to tell each other about us because we give them the edge.
That's a good point.
And isn't that interesting? So hey, athletes out there, help your buddy to to have a better run. And but it's a complete replacement for those carb and sugar based fuels. And by the way, we are the only keto paleo sports nutrition fuel out there. Period. But
Wow.
yeah. So it's really great, and it's great for every day, but it's also amazing for that for sports.
Cool. And how long does it take to kick in for the chlorella, and how long does it take for the spirulina to kick in for appetite
Yeah.
control?
Yeah, so if you chew this spirulina, which is the energy bits, within literally ten seconds, you'll start to feel it. Like it's that fast.
Okay.
But most people swallow them, so it's about 15 minutes. So within 15 minutes, but you can also, I use them also as a garnish on my salad. But obviously, if you're an athlete, you're not carrying a salad in your back pocket. Um, but we do sell single servings on Amazon. Our website only sells the bags, but we always give you a little tin that you can pop in your zipper pocket, and you can get like 2.5 servings in a tin. So yeah, so energy bits spirulina is like literally instant. It's
Okay.
15 minutes if you swallow. Chlorella, like I mentioned earlier, does take about an hour and a half to kick in.
Okay.
Now, we try to keep it simple for people and say energy bits before your workout and chlorella, the recovery bits after. However, a lot of these NHL players, they take them both at the beginning of the game. And they put like 3 servings in a smoothie because they're building up a lot of lactic acid on that ice with all those flat, sharp, fast spurts. So they want to start pulling the lactic acid out while they're still in the game. So they take both of them at the beginning, knowing that it's not going to kick in for a while. So
Okay.
that's another option. They work beautifully together. They play well together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we call them the power
Okay.
couple.
I love that. Yeah. And so, what are some other uses? Because we said energy and recovery, but I know also that algae can have skin benefits and gut health. How does it play a role in both of those things? You kind of answered the gut health question
Yeah,
with the chlorella, but maybe just go over other benefits.
sure. Well, you mentioned skin and health, and actually, we have another spirulina product called Skinny Bits. It's exactly the same as Energy Bits, and the only reason why there's 2 of them is that I started this because of my sister. So women's health is very important to me, and we found women weren't attracted to the packaging or the branding. So my girlfriend said, you should just make it pink and give it a flirty name. So I thought, okay, I can do that. So we do have Skinny Bits. It's exactly the same, but it's very girly, and we promote that more as a skin and hair health because your skin is collagen, your hair is keratin, and actually your bones are a blend of collagen and minerals. And so the algae has 40 vitamins and minerals in it. And so for bone health, you need minerals and protein. For skin and hair health, you need collagen and protein and minerals. So it's very good for that. We've been mentioning energy all the time, mostly physical energy, but the amazing thing is that most people aren't even aware of until they take energy bits or skinny bits is the focus that they get. We have surgeons, and when you're an athlete, one of the first things that goes when you're tired is your focus. So because of the high fats, energy bits is nitric oxide based, so it opens up your blood vessels, which gets all the oxygen into your brain and your muscles. It also has the highest concentration of iron, and iron carries oxygen in your blood, so you get a lot of focus from the energy bits. So that's So it's not just physical energy. And that also helps with ADHD. We're working with some neurologists who are using it for post-traumatic stress disorder
Wow.
treatments. So it helps with concussions. So any kind of brain health issue, we've been finding that it's really helpful. So that's the energy bit spirulina, and obviously the satisfying your hunger, whether you're on a weight loss or intermittent fasting. And the chlorella, because it has all that chlorophyll, it's very cleansing. So you can do a detox just by taking the recovery bits chlorella every day. You don't have to go on a fast if you don't want to, or you don't have to do anything extra. Just add it to your diet. I tell people it's like taking a when you take it every day, it's like having a shower on the inside. It just pulls anything out that shouldn't be there. We also have a great protocol for anyone who has Lyme disease, because and I can talk to you privately or refer people. We found that if you take this medical grade stevia, and I can give you a source for that, which kills the mites, but then you have to take the recovery bits to pull them out, because otherwise you get even sicker because you get all those dead Lyme. But that it works. It's an amazing. So there's a lot of health related moms whose kids won't eat greens. We tell them, give the kids the same number as their age. So if they're 4, give them 4 a day. If they're 5, give them 5 a day. And the kids love them because they turn their tongue green. They like to chew them. So now they won't be sick. They're getting their greens, the nutrients, not the fiber. So that's terrific. And even if you're working late, it's just a great little thing to keep in your briefcase, your knapsack, or whatever, for just making sure you're staying healthy.
Definitely. And not just kids, like even adults who don't eat their fruits and vegetables could definitely benefit from this. And one question I have about the fats, because we keep going over that there's good fats in it.
Yes.
I want to talk about the omega-3 situation. So for me, I've always thought that I should take fish oil because we hear about how it's so great. And now the question though, I know that a lot of the fish oil supplements on the market are processed or stored in a way where the fats become damaged and they become inflammatory instead of anti-inflammatory.
I know.
So tell us about why, since algae is basically food, how is the omega-3 content different? And should we be worried about the omega-6 content in algae? Tell us a little bit about the balance between omega-3 and 6.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. There's always so much to talk about algae. I feel like a mother talking about her children. Oh, well, let me tell you about all these wonderful attributes they have. They are my children. So here's the thing. And there's 2 issues going on here. First of all, the fish don't make omega-3. They get it from algae. Fish consolidate the omega-3 that's in algae already, and then of course the fish farmers go out there and turn that into fish oil. So a couple of things are happening. First of all, if you're vegan, you can't have fish oil. Number 2, there's been so much demand for omega-3, it's causing major ecological damage in the oceans because of all the fish. The fish are so concentrated in these fish farms that, to be honest, their fish poop is acidic, and it's killing the life of the plants in the ocean and on shore. So from an ecological perspective, it's not a satisfactory solution long term. Algae is, because algae is where the fish get it from, and it's vegan and it's sustainable. Even Dr. Oz says it's the best place to get your algae, your omega-3 from. There's no contamination. You're absolutely right about that contamination. I read a study that showed they tested 85 different fish oils, and that virtually all of them had gone rancid. It's just the processing nature of fish oil. So algae has it naturally. In fact, there's so much oil in algae that any of the biofuel research that's been going on for the last 20 years, it was all with algae, because they were trying to figure out how to tap into all that gorgeous fat. So there is it's a very small amount, I will be honest, in the algae. It's predominantly in the spirulina. However, there's also DHA, and then there's this other fat called GLA, which gets it's technically an omega-6. And before anybody goes, oh, well, we know those are bad for you. Yes, they are bad for you if they come from the wrong sources. But GLA actually behaves like an omega-3. It reduces inflammation. And the only place that has more GLA than Spirulina algae is mother's milk. And the reason why there's so much in mother's milk is because the baby's brain doubles or triples in size in the first couple of years after growth. So Mother Nature knows that the babies need the GLA to help them grow. Well, you know what? After the age of 2, you just can't get mother's milk. I'm sorry, it's just not possible. So where else can you get it? You get it from spirulina. Um, and it's a much it's just as safe. In fact, that's why I call spirulina the other perfect food. And I have an analysis that I did that shows that the nutrient profile of spirulina is virtually identical to mother's milk, the same amino acids in the same proportions, and all that gorgeous GLA. So GLA is anti-inflammatory. But and I don't know why it works like that, and other omega-6s are inflammatory, but this one is not. So you're getting all the fats that you need. I stopped taking fish oil as soon as I started taking algae. So when you take the spirulina and potentially also the chlorella, but even if you just took the spirulina, it's a replacement for most of your multivitamins. You don't need a multi, you don't need a fish oil, you don't need a CoQ10, you don't need a calcium or magnesium. It's kind of a one-stop shop, and it's sustainable and eco-friendly. I'll just throw in just a couple more plugs for Mother Earth. You get 100 times more protein from the algae, especially spirulina, than you do with cattle ranching. It uses 1/10 of the water of any other traditional crop, and the water can be reused because it kills bacteria when it's growing. So, and it captures carbon dioxide and releases oxygen when it's growing. So it's like, yay, algae. It's and frankly, 80% of the oxygen on Earth comes from algae anyway. So growing algae and taking it yourself, you're also supporting the future of Earth.
Nice. Yeah. And that was, you answered one of my questions anyways, is how is it more sustainable? And so you just said that. But one thing, so since it is so nutrient dense, can we overdose on it? Like, I know there's a lot of vitamin A in it. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, there's never been in the 50 years of use, or 60 years has been documented, never been a single death from algae, period. Can't, that doesn't happen in the medical world. They're the only, we've had one person they actually had a sensitivity to beta carotene. So they just, period. So, but when they swallowed it, they were fine. They just couldn't chew it. There's a lot of niacin. So one person, we've had two actually in 7 years. They had what's called a niacin flush. Again, not threatening. It just makes your cheeks go red briefly. So basically, 99.999% of the people of the world will have no negative reaction to spirulina, and it's only beneficial. It's so safe, you can give it to babies, and we do have mothers giving it to their newborns, and they give it to newborns in Japan. Now, chlorella, there's a small percentage of the people that do have a sensitivity to chlorella, very small, but you'll know right away. It doesn't. Neither of them interact with any drugs. So that's very good. But chlorella is a detoxer. So a very small percentage of people will have headaches, will have a little stomach distress, and it's not from the algae. What's happening is because it's a detoxer, it's pulling the toxins out of your cells, bringing them into your bloodstream so your bloodstream can release it through breathing or sweating or urination. And while those toxins are in your bloodstream, they're causing some detox symptoms. They're irritating your body. And but once the toxins are out, that goes away. And I tell people, just get through it. It might be a week, might be 10 days. Not everybody has that happen to them, but it does occur, and we want people to know that that's a good sign. You're getting rid of stuff. The only other thing I would back up on is I need to be sure everybody understands we are not doctors. We are not allowed to give medical advice. If you ever have any questions, always check with your medical professional. I do know that most doctors ask you to stop taking vitamin E, for example, before surgery. So it might be smart to stop taking spirulina because it has so much of that rich fat in it that we've never heard of any problem, but we would want people to be precautionary. But you don't have those fats in the chlorophyll or the chlorella. But either way, you might want to stop a week before just to be careful. So, but it's food, so it's like telling people to stop eating broccoli before surgery as well. But I just want to be very cautious and not say anything that would be inappropriate, and always check and always ask your physician or your homeopath if you have any questions.
Of course. Yeah. And we'll list some of the studies that we've talked about in this podcast on the website if you could send those to me. And
Yeah.
that, you can look at those as a resource and talk to your doctor, etc. Now, one thing I know that chlorella binds to toxins. Do you happen to know if how it's different or the same as activated coconut charcoal?
I don't know much or anything, quite honestly,
Okay.
coconut charcoal,
Okay.
but the chlorella has this remarkable ability, and they've been using it. They used it at Chernobyl to pull out radiation. They used it at they discovered it had this ability when they used it for Hiroshima and pulled out the radiation. It's a combination of the hard cellular wall that attaches to other toxins and pulls it out, and then there's that cleansing piece from all the chlorophyll and the fact that chlorophyll is fat based. So interesting fact about chlorophyll, only about 10% of it gets digested in your stomach, and the rest of it stays through your entire digestive tract. So it goes through the liver and stays with you all the way through your colon. So just to forewarn people, if you are taking the portions that I take, which is at least 2 or 3 servings a day, your poop will be green. But that's a good sign. I say it's a badge of honor because it's been it's been healing your cells all the way down through your colon, and that's why they use it for. And I realize that's why it helps so much with IBS and Crohn's disease, because it's healing those cellular structures, and it's pulling the toxins out. So it's pulling them out and protecting your cells at the same time, so they're not getting reabsorbed. I don't know how the process of activated coconut charcoal works, but this will heal your liver as well as pulling the toxins out, because a lot of people are concerned, rightfully so, that you're pulling all these toxins out. Can your liver handle it? And so this is kind of like a one-stop shop. Yes, that's the brilliance of Mother Nature.
Okay. And I have to ask, since we are on the subject of detoxing, what would be the protocol for hangovers, drinking a lot?
Sure. Well, again, a single serving should work. Do not take it before drinking, because you just won't get a buzz. I say it's like having a Roomba in your bloodstream. It just pulls automatically, so the alcohol never even makes it down to your liver. So if you're a normal sized person, if you had a normal 1 or 2 glasses, take it right after drinking. That's why we encourage people to take their ENERGYbits in the morning, so they have energy for the day and powering your workout, and get into a habit of taking your RECOVERYbits at night, because when you do go out drinking, then you're ready to. It's already by your bedside. You just take it automatically. And by the way, your body has a natural cycle of detox when you're sleeping, so you'll always be helping it with that. Now, if you're a bigger build, or you've had a pretty serious night of drinking, you might want to take 2 servings. The only way it wouldn't work is if you just didn't take enough to pull out the toxins. And you will be sober within an hour and a half, because it takes an hour and a half to work. But we've had people write us that we saved their bachelorette party. We saved them at their trip to Vegas, because they were the only ones that were taking these after partying. So I say that Mother Nature had one heck of a sense of humor. She gave us spirulina so we had energy to go to the party, and then she gave us chlorella so we could recover after the party and go do it again.
Right. Yeah. I love it.
So yes. So after drinking. Yeah.
Okay. And why do you think that this is such a huge thing in Asia, and it hasn't really caught on yet, or it's catching on in the United States? But where do you think the disconnect is there?
Well, part of it's the history of algae itself, which I have a whole summary about that as well. So I'll give you as short a snapshot as I can. It was discovered by a Dutch scientist in the late 1800s to have healthy protein. The Germans in the early 1900s found it had the highest concentration of edible protein in the world, and they later won a Nobel Prize related to that. During World War I, Germany was destroyed and the country was starving, and so the government, because their scientists had just won this or had this discovery about the edible protein, said, get us some of that stuff because we have starving people. So they used chlorella to feed the Germans during World War I, and everything was fine. Then it was completely forgotten about until World War II. Hiroshima dropped on Japan. Everyone was starving. the Americans had, I guess, found out from the Germans had a similar situation, so they got their hands, I don't know how, on some chlorella. They sent food and chlorella over to the Japanese under the Marshall Plan, and so they did it because of the high protein. The Japanese who got the chlorella not only got fed, they healed from the radiation poisoning. This is 1946. So that's when suddenly people said, what was that stuff? So the Carnegie Institute, the Rockefeller Institute spent 5 years studying algae, said, this is amazing, this is the answer to world hunger, blah, 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 let's grow it. They tried to grow it for mass consumption, and they set up a plant in Boston, of all places, and I have all the documentation. It was too hard to grow, so they said, forget it, we can't do this. So then the Japanese said, well, if you guys aren't going to do it, we will. So all the science was sent over to Japan, and they spent 10 years learning how to grow chlorella for mass consumption. So now we're into the 1960s, and if people will remember, there was a little blip of interest in spirulina and chlorella in the 60s, and that's because the Japanese had figured out how to grow it for mass consumption. And so it's the reason why it's so big in Asia is because that's where the industry started. So, and because it is such a high nutrient value and it has so much protein, and they don't have the kind of cattle ranching that we have in America, it's been used for 5-6 decades. And by the way, in Japan, they don't take vitamins. They take chlorella every day. And chlorella is in everything that they make. Their cookies, their crackers, their seaweed, their sushi, their nori. It's in their tea. It's in everything. And by the way, they have the lowest breast cancer rates in the world. So the reason it's taken off there is because that's where it's grown. So over the years, since the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, the production of it has moved into Japan or China and Taiwan and India because it's a major crop. It's almost as big as the beef industry is here. It's enormous. And the reason why it hasn't taken off here is because we have so many other food alternatives, many of which are branded and marketed to us very cleverly for other reasons. And it's never been packaged or explained very properly here, nor has the quality been guaranteed. So I took it on to solve those 3 problems. And so my goal is to grow it here in a very large way one day, maybe in Nevada or somewhere there's a lot of sunshine. You don't need a lot of water, but it might take me 10 years to get to that point. But that's my long-term plan to definitely grow it here as a crop, because the way, and just if you talk to anybody who understands world population growth, there's a food crisis already. It's only going to get worse, and they're looking for solutions. And algae is the most efficient, dense nutrition, period. So it's a very exciting time, at least for me.
It really is. No, and you're doing a great job, and you've definitely changed the story for me as far as what I understood about algae. And the other thing I want to ask is, I know we can't really replace our fruit and vegetable intake with supplements, but I know algae is also food. So what about somebody like my dad who refuses to eat vegetables? He hates them. He won't eat them. Can he really eat this and be all set, or what do you think?
You bet. Well, we can't help with the fiber, but he may be taking something else for the fiber. But absolutely slam dunk, no question. This gives him the chlorophyll that he needs and the other phytonutrients at 100%. You got it. If you so he doesn't have to even stop anything else. Just add this to his diet, and both of them have a lot of chlorophyll, but chlorella has twice as much. So it really depends. So even if he wanted to start with a spirulina, he's still getting 25 times more chlorophyll than wheatgrass, which is, and he's getting 500 times more chlorophyll than kale. So because most people can digest spirulina, they all like spirulina, that he might get more energy. He will get more energy from that. That might be the way to start him.
Okay.
Although I will say most people like the flavor of the recovery bit. So it's
he will not like the flavor.
Okay.
I can tell you that.
So if he's going to swallow them, then it doesn't matter. Then I would, maybe start him on the energy bits for sure. And he probably likes the word better anyways.
Yeah. And if he can swallow it.
Yeah, he's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, I have to ask also, because this is a little unrelated to, actually, it's probably very related to algae, but I won't share your age with our audience, but you look great for your age. You have so much energy. Well, period. You look great, period. Yeah. And
that's very sweet of you.
and you just have this great energy, and you I'm just amazed and inspired by your entrepreneurial spirit. So tell us a little bit about, you told me 2 things at the conference that you do that help you stay looking so youthful. And then you also told me via email 3 habits that have made a big impact on your health. So just share those little things with our audience.
Well, I start my day, and a lot of people do, with a glass of water with lemon, sometimes 2, and that just whatever you put in your body first thing in the morning has a big impact, because of course there's nothing there, so that's very cleansing. And then I follow that with I drink a yerba mate, which is has very high antioxidants, and I drink a couple of cups of that. And then of course I have my cherished algae, spirulina, and chlorella. Usually 2 servings of the recovery bits. And what I've recently started doing, which is my other sort of tip, because I seriously could not live without this stuff. Like I am so blessed that this is my business, because I look younger, I feel better than I did 20 years ago, and maybe one day we'll run a competition, people can guess my age, and we'll give them a free bag of algae. Although, and I'm eventually it'll have to come out, because I guess it is a selling feature, because nobody ever believes how old I am. I'm not like 150 or anything, but I tell people, you have to eat this so I'll have friends who will still live as long as I will.
Yeah.
But the other thing I started doing is adding macadamia nuts. I have discovered, I go to a lot of keto conferences, and I noticed everybody was eating macadamia nuts. And so I started researching macadamias. They're like 95% fat. And they have something called an omega-7 fat in them, which I've just started learning about. They just discovered this, and it behaves like an omega-3. You're going to hear a lot more about the macadamians and the omega-7. And it is so satisfying. When I eat especially the recovery bits, chlorella, and the macadamians, it's like eating potato chips. I swear to God, I've got everybody turned on to it. So it's really cool. So that's one of my tips. And I really, really, really try to get outside, an hour if I can, even if it's just a walk. It doesn't have to be an athletic. There's something so healing about fresh air, and even if it's not sunny, but sunshine is better, and just being in nature, it just has such calming influence, certainly on me. It's grounding. And I tell people, if you ever have any question, just go out and observe nature. Nature is so intelligent. It's been here a lot longer than we have, and it's still here. So I find that very helpful, because it's very stressful running a startup, bootstrapped company, and every day you think, can I get through today? So it really helps me.
Yeah, totally. I can tell why you would need to be outside with everything that you're doing. And so thank you so much. And tell us about, where can we find more about ENERGYbits, your website, social media?
Yeah. Well, we sell the product on our website, ENERGYbits.com. And, we haven't set it up, and I regret that I let this slip, but we'll set up a 20% discount code with the word Haley.
Awesome.
Hailey, Hailey. Give me an hour and we'll get that set up, so that anybody who comes to our website and types in Haley will get 20% off from the purchase. We also do sell through Amazon, so you can buy the bags and the single servings from Amazon. And we have practitioners nationwide, not sort of any store retailers, but we have chiropractors. And if you go on our website and click find a retailer, and type in your zip code, you'll see who in your zip code sells the single servings. So that's a handy way to do it as well. So you can get the single servings or the bags or the boxes on Amazon, and only the bags through us. And your code, Haley, only works on our website. And we're on all the social media. We're very active on Instagram. We're really proud of our Instagram. So that's just ENERGYbits. And then same with Facebook, it's ENERGYbits, and Twitter is ENERGYbits. We've had them for quite a long time. So we'd love to talk to people on any of those. So come and find us.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has been very informative, and
thank you.
I always appreciate and love talking to you. So
thank you so much. Thanks, Haley. Thanks, everybody.
Want to hear more shows? Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Get your free habits guide at haleyrowe.com, and remember that any advice given on the show does not substitute for medical advice from your healthcare professional. Talk to you guys soon.